you guys, it's me, Dr. Torie. My book is officially out. And yes, it is time to talk about ACEs. You guys can find the books everywhere. However, I would encourage you guys to go to my website, VicTORIEus.com, and place your order today. Yes, it's time to talk about ACEs. Let's go, y'all. Hello, 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 you guys. It's me, Dr. VicTORIEus, coming here again with another episode of Be Victorious. Y'all know I like to sing. Well, let me tell you about this amazing individual I have. I have always said that adverse childhood experiences is an international issue. It's worldwide. We all have issues with ACEs, but guess what? I'm this amazing woman. Now, I'm not going to tell you who I met her for because I love our community. And when I first heard her as a coach advocating, I was so interested in getting her book so quick. I got it. Let's be clear. This looks just like her. Coach Val, where are you at?
Hello,
This
my
your twin.
friend.
This is your twin right here, I swear.
I
Oh
know,
my
right?
God.
The sister doesn't age. I don't age.
You look the same.
I
You
know.
guys, what I love about this book is she is talking about adverse childhood experience, guys. She has a whole book. What I love is the different chapters. The
Mm,
different chapters talk about different stories. Now, Val, I'll be honest, I'm in it. I'm all the way in it. I haven't finished past chapter 3 because, as you know, I did finally take a chance and we're authors together. Yay to us because my book is to help this. But
I
I
know.
am glad that you're there to share. So, Val, tell us before you tell us about the book, tell us about yourself.
Hello, my beautiful friends. My name, it's Val Dupre, but I'm known as Coach Val, and I'm a resilience coach. So I have to help people build their resilience. I'm also known as a shaman. So I truly believe in mind, body, and spirit. So I utilize all three mediums to many ancient mediums and um, from right now, current mediums to help us uh, live a full life. Literally, that's really my main goal in this life is to help you know that your resilience truly lie within yourself.
And she does it, you guys. I'm a witness. So I bragged about the healing summit I did. And
Mhm.
at that time, I was in a major healing phase myself. And so just to run into you and the things that you were saying and how inspiring you are, of course, I had to. And then when I found out that you were almost done with your book, I was one of the first. I had to because your story just it resonated so much with me. I've been trying forever to get people to understand ACEs and just to get this book born out of fear. I cannot wait to meet you in person and get my autograph, I promise. Thank you so much for sharing your
Mhm.
story. What
Mhm.
made you want to share your story, Coach Val?
You know what? I think at first, this book, first of all, the people need to understand that it came to me in a dream. So I dreamed and I saw myself holding a book and I saw this picture that you see and I saw this name Born Out of Fear and I was like, interesting.
Mhm.
So that was the first thing that started happening. And I was like, what it means. And I realized it was about me, that I needed to go within. At that time, it was been almost like 7 years. I haven't spoke to my mother.
Mhm.
I just finished a divorce. A lot of things was happening at the same time. So I needed to go back within and go deep within and look within myself and see myself truly and own my story.
Mhm.
When I begin to start owning my story, I realized that throughout my life, every time that I was able to overcome some of my challenges, it was because of other people's stories. So then I said, you know what? What about I write the book that I saw in the dream? And I write it, but like you tell, the book is full of stories because
Mhm.
I know the best way to be inspired by other people it's when you can actually hear somebody else's stories. Not what they're telling you what to do, not what to do.
Right.
Do this or don't do this. It's more like, hey, this is what has happened to me. This is how I overcome it. That means you can do it as well.
Right. And you do it. It's motivating because again, there was a once upon a time where I just felt alone, that I thought I was in this by myself. And to meet people like you that not have only shared their story, but understand ACEs through their healing journey. What's your ACEs score, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm number 8.
And have you let that ACEs score define you?
You know what? It did. It did.
Really?
Unconsciously, it did for, I'm using the word unconsciously because it did for many, many years define me until I decided to actually look into it and realize that I was not it.
Right. Right. Because there's such a stereotype on ACEs right now. It's horrible. And if we can talk about here in the United States, we just had COVID 4 years ago, and now we're not having the conversation, but it's still out there. I feel like they've done ACEs the same way. All of it's on the same website. It's a discussion. It's a conversation, but nobody wants to talk about it. Why don't we want to talk about COVID no more? Why don't we want to talk about the flu? And so I think that's what makes it so negative. And I am really happy that you did this because you hear so many times, oh, but it's your mother. Why should you want me to do this? What do you think about that?
When they said about it's my mother?
Like when they say, oh, well, it's your mother. You can't do that.
You know what? There's 2 responses to that, depending on what the person told me. When people told me it's my mother, I also told them, you know what? She's also part of my story, right? Yep. She's part of my story. And then if you didn't want to be a villain in my story, you shouldn't be a good person in the story, right? Some people were so frustrated. And I'm like, guys, this is why before I wrote the book, this is when I was writing it, that's when I wrote. But the interesting thing, when the book got published, and my mom started to spread the book to everybody else and tell people about it. And because you walk with me and my mother through the book, right? And I told her, that's interesting that you're sharing it. You know what she said? She said, did you ever think that perhaps you sharing my story, you also became my voice? Which I never thought about it. Because this story, I'm actually kind of, it's a generational trauma, right? She didn't get the chance to use that voice of hers. So there's a lot of repeating. Often ACEs, it's about repeating, right? You're just repeating over and over. So me having the chance to open my voice, now she's telling me, never thought that perhaps you were also my voice by telling the story, which really took me a step back from it because I was surprised. So sometimes we have a tendency to be afraid of what other people are going to think, especially the people close to us, or especially the people that have shaped that stories, had shaped our life, right? But also we need to also remember that a lot of them didn't get those tools that we have right now to overcome some of those challenges. So by showing them how, by being that voice, we also giving them a choice and also an opportunity to have a voice.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're doing that because there's someone else out there just like you having to go through this experience, and now will know that they're not alone in their journey. Because you traveled from Haiti to Canada.
Yes, I traveled from Haiti. Well, I know I can start to tell you. Do you want me to tell the beginning of the story for me moving to Haiti?
Yes, without telling the book, because let's be clear, we want people to read the book.
Oh, yeah, we want people to read the book. You're going to read the book. But you need to, the reason I called it Born Out of Fear is because I am a child of rape. So it's very clear, and didn't have much choice in Haiti. abortion is actually illegal and everything. Doesn't matter what happened to you, you're not allowed to do it, especially in the
Mm.
70s. So at that time, that's what I am. And unconsciously as a child, I did not know. So a lot
Mhm.
of the pain and the suffering that was inflicted on me was because of that. But as a kid, you don't know.
Right.
Right? You're having all those things happening, there's abuse and everything happening in you that you're like, what have I done? Right?
Mhm.
What have I done?
Mhm.
So then, mm, because of the situation and the circumstance of the rape, my mother had to left the country and left me for
Mhm.
9 months in Haiti. And then at age of 4 years old, she brought me with my grandmother to Canada. And the book talk about this event, me taking my first flight and arriving to Canada at 4 years old. And the whole story that comes with it until I am here right now.
And you are a blessing, honey, because let's be clear, the story is a story. And
Mm-hmm,
it's not a story that needs to be um, overlooked.
mm-hmm,
Because again, we're having discussions about abortion on debates, and it's like the United States is supposed to be a staple, and people don't see it unless you're on the outside looking in, how much good or bad it can look in someone else's eyes. Because
mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, I'm glad that you're here, but there wasn't an option. Whereas
The
here in the
option.
United States,
There's
we
no
have
option,
options.
right? Exactly.
Mhm.
And option is people understand the power of choice.
Mhm.
It is so important. The power of choice is so undervalued. Like and people don't realize until it's taken away from you, right?
Yep.
Until
Yep.
it's taken away from you. And
And I'm glad you brought up generational trauma because,
oh,
again, how did you know?
I
You
don't know.
wouldn't have known. And I think that's what we're missing when we talk about ACEs, how much of an
Mm-hmm,
impact that it actually has because we're born into it.
mm-hmm,
And that's what my book is saying. Like, again, I haven't told my story like you did. And I think
mm-hmm,
that's the reason why I love it. And I want to dissect it the way and not rush into it.
mm-hmm.
Because after I read those first two chapters, I was like, oh, okay, Val.
I know. I know. You're
No
really right.
shade.
I know. I know.
Yeah, this is not something that you take lightly at
Yeah.
all because when it's relatable,
Mm-hmm,
you can understand it. Now, again, I wasn't right, but I know people that were. And just to have to go through that experience, we're talking about ACEs again. That
mm-hmm,
experience holds differently on people. So
mm-hmm,
kudos to you again for having
mm-hmm,
to share your story. You're a hero.
mm-hmm.
You're a hero.
Thank
How did this transition to the resiliency coach, Val?
you. People don't understand. Like, I didn't know that I was resilient until I was like in my 30s.
Mhm,
And then one of my friends was like, "You are so strong." I'm like, strong. We heard that we're strong and a strong Black woman all the time. And
mhm,
then a friend of mine said, "No, she's resilient." It was kind of the first time I started hearing the word resiliency. And then I started to go research about it and I started to look around about that word. And I realized that um, we have the survival. You can
mhm.
survive, live your whole life being a survival of everything that's been happening to you.
Right,
Or you can choose to become resilient. And the difference is resiliency, you understand the concept that there will be challenges.
right.
It's part of life. But
Mhm,
within yourself, you are able to overcome those challenges. Doesn't matter how insane and crazy it is. I've met people that the most horrific thing has happened to their life, and they're still chosen to be, they were able to, through healing, still
mhm,
able to be great, amazing human being,
mhm,
right? But also met people who chose to the rest of their life to, who were suffering a lot as well. But because they were so in a survival mode, what did they become? They became people who hurt, the people who are angry, the people that cannot actually live their life. They are stuck. unable to
Mm-hmm.
live their life. That's what
Yep.
survival means. It's me like every time waking up, hoping that I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna be able to go through today.
Yep.
But resilience to say, you know what, this is happening to my life. I'm gonna own it and I'm gonna find a way to move through it. Because
Mm-hmm.
I know the same way like it's super cloudy today in Calgary, the same way I know that there's a lot of cloud. Above those clouds, there's a sun.
Mm-hmm.
I know above those clouds is the sun. So I'm gonna go through it until those clouds open up and I can see my son. So it's really, so my life was that. When I started to realize that, I'm like, you know what? That's what I am. I went through all of those challenges
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to not survive anymore. I wanted to live. I wanted to wake up and be excited to live. Because
Mm-hmm.
at one point I did not want to live, right? And I
Right.
think like the expectation life of a people with ACE is like insane. Like when you're like number 4, number 6, I think number 6 is like what, 18 years old? Like I don't know.
Right.
I remember something like that. Right? So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
no wonder that at some point, so many teens, so many people at some point in their life, you don't want to live anymore, right?
Right.
But we can choose to be part of the statistic or to overcome the statistic by choosing to
Right.
truly live our life.
Yep. I will share with you,
Mm-hmm.
as I stated, and as you know, I
Mm-hmm.
always create a safe space for us to have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I want to come back and have this conversation with you. I'll tell you up front right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, my reason for leaving Chicago was because of abortion. It took
Mm-hmm.
me a long time. I mean, 2 different therapists. I think the therapist that actually helped me the most was a grief counselor,
Mm-hmm.
because I had to grieve the death like I grieved the divorce as a death.
Mm-hmm.
So my therapist recommended me to a grief therapist and said, hey, you have to grieve this first in order
Mm-hmm.
to be able to grieve that. And it took a minute, but guess what? I'm talking about it now. You know what I mean? I think that was my issue from the beginning. I didn't know I can have children at all. And then when I found out I can have the kids, I thought it was a total package. And it happened the second time, and it happened the third time. Well, the fourth time, I was like, look, this is not this. I already don't want to stay with you. So this won't be that excuse. And so I had to go out of my norm. But the sessions, but the counseling, but the therapy, I appreciate my therapist even making a recommendation and not being selfish and say and allowing me to stay with her to
Mm-hmm.
recommend to somebody else. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the reward. But when you think about ACEs and you think about that, abortion's not on there yet.
Mm-hmm.
Foster care is. And I will tell you, the next few people that I have, it's the topic of conversation. We're talking
Mm-hmm.
about abortion. We're talking about all of this. So again, for someone that has been through it, it may be a bit triggering. You know what I mean? But in order to go through your healing journey, I have to commend you because I know it was not easy work to do this book at all.
Mm-hmm.
So
Not
I
at all.
think when we celebrated, we were really celebrating for real because as an author, I know that this was hard for you. And then
Mm-hmm.
as someone that has actually been through something in regards to that, it was very relatable. So again, I thank you for sharing this story right here because it's an eye opener. What do you say, what as far as the customers that you have or the people that come for your coaching services, what can they receive when they come to you?
You know what they will receive from me. First of all, I like to tell people that I speak with their soul.
Mhm.
So whatever is happening in that physical, whatever has happened, it it will not affect their soul identity. Because whatever it's inside of you, that that beautiful spirit that is inside of you is the one who chose to be here,
Mhm.
is the one that wants to be and live this life. So what we do, the conversations are open and very honest. And because of my spiritual gift, people have a tendency to not feel afraid to speak to me like openly about everything. And then when we go to our deep, profound conversations, I always add all three aspects. Your
Right.
mind, what do we need to do to help you understand? Understand, because it's important for us to understand what's happening, not often the why, but how it happened. What can I do about it? When can I expect some change? You know, those questions, because question is truly life. To encourage people to ask questions. So your mind, we work a lot. I work a lot with the mind. The body, so often we forgot about the body. There's so much, especially people have been aces with a lot of views, right? So a lot of those imprint are already in the body. So
Right.
with the movement to know that we need to take care of that body now, to release some of those informations that the body's holding that sometimes our conscious mind doesn't realize. Then we will go to the spiritual part. This is what all the unconscious information has been held. And then we go deeper and profound, and we try to see, when did it start? Because often when it's finding out, when did it start?
Mm-hmm.
And we know it's a lot often in the childhood, right?
Yep.
When did it start? And when we find out the when did it start, then we can look at it with our adult eyes and realize, now that I'm an adult, I'm seeing it. Often realize, first, it wasn't my fault.
Right.
It wasn't my fault. Second, actually can do something about it. And third, that young kid was pretty badass because the adult is still there standing up,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So we go through all those, every single time we have conversations, we go through this. So it's a mind, body, spiritual experience.
Okay. Okay. I have another question. I have
Go
two,
for it.
actually. So, mind body experience.
Mhm.
What if someone was interested in getting you as a resiliency coach? How could they find you?
Well, you can find me to my website. You can find me a lot of the IG people send me informations. But to be honest, my business has been word of mouth for the last 10 years.
Hint, hint. That's the
It's the
reason why I'm
best
bringing it up.
way. It's
You.
the best way. It's been word of mouth. People like,
Mhm.
I know it's always a reference. And I love it so much because it means somebody's life have changed. They're like, you have to go see Val. You have to see
Mhm.
Coach Val. You have to see Val. So
Mhm.
yes, to my website, you can send a message in the IG, but a lot of time you're just gonna hear about it and you come more, and then we have a conversation on the phone, and then we move
Now,
forward.
you know me, and I never asked this early, but this is how interested I was, and I told you before in
Yeah,
regards to getting you in. I am happy you are part of this community because this book is going to save somebody. Like I said, for me, it's been a reference, it's been a tool. And so I would love to, of course, share this with as many people as possible. So again, this interview is a little different than others, but
hmm,
that's because I already know value, guys. We met actually understanding ACEs like everybody else. And when there's good in someone, you can see it and you can feel it. And I promise you, I felt it. And when she said that she was doing this book, we have been connected since. And you all have to understand that mother wound is so real.
for
How
real.
is your relationship with your mom?
You know what? It is actually very good. I needed to had a 9-year pause. I
Mhm.
said to everybody that I needed 9 years for me to
Mhm.
go within and to no communications, because I had first to start owning my story.
Mhm.
Then I needed to see her, and often that's what we forgot about our mothers. I needed to see her as a woman,
Right.
as a woman, as a woman who was violated,
Mhm.
as a woman who was a survivor. And then that separations give me also an opportunity to actually to look at her. But the beauty about it as well, I also had to grieve, and it's interesting talking about the grieving. I had to grieve the
Mhm.
mother that the young Val will never
Mhm.
have.
Right.
And sometimes we forget about that.
Mhm.
I had to grieve the mother I cannot hope the little Val will have the mother that she dream and think about. I had to grieve that and
Right.
accept the mother that I have right now. And because of that, when we change ourselves, we start to see people differently. Because I
Right.
started to see her differently. She was more open for conversations.
Mhm.
She was more open. And also, I had to create clear boundaries. Something we forgot.
Right.
Boundaries is extremely important.
Mhm.
So I had to create very clear boundaries, and those clear boundaries help our relationship. Help our relationship, right?
Mhm.
So we have a really good term, great conversation, clear boundaries, but also I also know I will never be receive the mother that I wished I would have, right?
Right.
But I have the chance to the mother for my kids that I
Mhm.
wish I would have.
Very good. Do you think that understanding yourself, doing your research and understanding ACEs had a lot to do with that?
Oh my gosh, I was so happy because my first time I was introduced to me was Mick, our friend Mick.
Mhm.
And when
I
he
had to,
told
of course, make it gradual because he's amazing to me. Let's
me,
be
it is
clear.
amazing. The first time, and they were talking about it. And then I remember, then you came as well to the community we were, and then
Mhm.
you guys posed that test because
Mhm.
Mick was talking about it, and then after that, you came and then you put the test, and I put the test, and I remember going to the question. I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, right? I couldn't believe it. And then, when you start reading more, and it said if you are 8, by the time if you're 4, 6, you should not be alive. And I was like, oh my god,
Alive. It's
it's
a
a
lot.
lot to take in. It took me few. I'm not gonna lie, it took me a few months to actually digest that.
Yeah. And I think that's the reason why people are so scared of the ACEs score or sharing it because it's like, oh, I'm an 8 or oh, I'm a 10. And I have spent this entire summer breaking down the ACEs score and letting people know the original ACEs quiz was 50 plus questions. Those 10 questions are compiled. It's
Mhm.
just an awareness tool. That's really all it is. But we've placed such a negative stereotype on it that now I'm saying there's nothing wrong with having aces. I still say it and I'm going to continue to say it because it's not. I think for me now, it's bringing people like us together because it's helped
I
you
love
share
it
your
so
story.
much.
Mhm.
I loved it
It's
so much. I'm gonna
helped
tell
you.
you, yes, it took me 3, 4 months to digest it.
Yep.
But you know the beauty about knowing that score and seeing it, it's realizing that's the reason I do what I do.
Yep.
That's the reason I'm acting a certain way.
Mhm.
And then it starts to really encourage us to go and ask the real questions.
Yep.
Now that I know, what am I going to do about it?
And you're
There's
doing
no more
something about
excuse.
it.
Yeah, there's no more excuse anymore. I
It's not.
love it so much. There's no more excuse about it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I think it's so interesting to know that, to know those part of us that everybody want to keep hush hush. Everybody want to
Right.
hide. Everybody want to shh, right?
Right.
But why? Why?
Why?
I think everybody should know so you can actually. I think after digested it, I felt
Mhm.
empowered
Right.
because like I said, we start to meet other people
Mhm.
and we start to be. You know what? I'm not all alone
Right.
because those stories in the questions have a tendency to separate us and make people believe that they are alone. But
Mhm.
with the community we create, it gives us everybody to know you are not alone. You're not alone.
Now everybody's looking for meet and greets, and I'm like, I don't have a problem with it at
Yeah.
all. I think it would be a great idea. I'm excited. We sat on a lunch and learn from me and decided we're going to do an ACES conference in Chicago. I'm all for it. You know why? Because it's going to give us an opportunity to be in a bigger space where we can
Mm,
finally meet each other. And the meeting of the minds is it's already here. The blueprint has already been planted. You're a resiliency coach. People need to see you. People need to meet you as an author. There's going to be someone that's going to come up and say, hey, your story sounds familiar. Tell me
mhm,
how can you help me? You know
mhm.
what I mean? Because that's what's happening to me. And it's like, I didn't know this. I love Mick so much. I remember Mick was episode 21, part 1 and part 2. And to
I
see
watched
him,
both of them. I watched both of them. I
I
love it.
mean, and to see him now, his hair was covered and his face was covered because he still had those mother wounds. And to see him now and he just flings it and he talks and he has this conversation and he's healing and he's helping others is an amazing sight to see. And I'm so glad that he brought us together because you are amazing.
No,
So
you are
yes, I
phenomenal.
put your information out here very early because I want you to repeat it again. You have been a part of our community. I talk about us so much, but I promise you, once we start getting that collaborative community together where people are asking questions and saying, well, who do you think, Dr. Torie? Of course, I'm going to say Val, because your book here is actually helping me. And then you being a resiliency coach, which by the way, is on the CDC as a resiliency tool, people need you. So tell us again where they can find you so they can go. And I will also say, I'm going to get this information and put it on my website so people can have it as well.
Thank you so much, my love. Before I say that, I want to tell you something that you're
Yes.
doing, and I'm so grateful for what you're doing. I'm so grateful for you've been consistent in the
Thank you.
message. No,
Thank
but
you.
it's very fun to be like, oh, I'm talking about something like that, but to be consistent in the message, because acceptance liberates.
Mhm.
When you accept, you become free. If you think about make myself, the freedoms that comes with it.
Yes.
So thank you for your
Um,
consistency. Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Um,
I thank you for being here. Tell us where we can
so
find you.
yeah, you can find me on Val Coaching. It's on Instagram. You can find me like that. You'll see the Val Dupré. It's gonna be .com, and it's It's I think it's opening up in the 16th, so on Monday. It's gonna be the website's gonna be fully available. You can find me there. That's where the main place you can find me. Send me a message on IG. Find me on the website. Amazon. That's where you can find the book. You can find the book on Amazon. Send me a note, talk, even for any conversation, any questions. Because when we find a purpose, which I found the purpose of my life, it's when I can help one person with a word. That's the reason I live. That's the reason I feel that I'm on this planet. So thank you for giving me this platform to share part of my story, to empower other people to know that when you own your story, you actually liberate. You become free.
And I agree. Thank you so much again, Coach Val, for everything. And you guys, I know you all are going to love this episode. You are going to be able to find it everywhere on social media. We're on all the podcast platforms. We're on Instagram, Facebook. Back on LinkedIn, I've been laughing about it lately, but for real, I've been doing pretty good, even on the business website of getting this information out here. But let me tell you, ACEs is something that is not just a United States issue. It's a problem globally, and we need to have these conversations so people can understand that there is power in healing. So thank you guys again for another wonderful episode of Be Victorious. We'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye, you guys.
Bye, everyone.